So it is your first feature, right? Does it feel, what's the big difference between shorts and now having a feature? Does it feel different?
It does feel different, mainly. Do you want me to, by the way, answer by asking the question? Because sometimes that's how.
No, my voice will stay in it.
Oh, okay, great.
So
Should I
don't
take
worry.
that back again?
Yeah.
Did I ruin it?
No,
I totally
you didn't.
ruined
No,
it.
it's okay.
The big difference is in terms of like how much of yourself is in the work or the vulnerability of showing the work, that stuff is the same. It's how people treat you that's different. Making a movie that's longer than 15 minutes, there's a sort of grandeur about it. And when it's a first feature, people seem to kind of treat me and us like, it's our debut. It feels a little bit like a debut, I feel like it's my birthday and I've got this great dress on, and it's a combination of like, do people like the dress? Do I feel good about the dress? And you're doing that over and over again, or at least we have for just the last 5 days, because we premiered at Sundance a few days ago, and then we were here last night. It's a bit of a whirlwind.
I can imagine. And you said yesterday that everybody thinks that he is the director.
Yeah, I'll let Brett speak to that a little bit.
How does it make you feel? You just answer, yes, I am. Or
No. No, it makes me angry when people do that. They don't think I'm the director. I think a lot of people might assume that I led the writing of it, and she helped me, when the opposite is true. It was all her idea, the film, and it's very much in her voice, and I helped her with some ideas. I was her little helper. But not to say that my sensibility as a writer is not injected into the film, but we share a sensibility in a lot of ways. So so it's just a lot of people, especially, I don't know about here, but in the United States, when you see a white man on the bill next to a black woman, they're going to think, you did it all.
But even
You're doing her a favor, It's
How kind, yeah.
But even regardless of race, I think it's a sex thing. It's not so. There are plenty of aspects of the process that are black and white, but I think it's more sex based, because there is just not a great deal of women in this space who are doing comedy and also directing, and so. He has a more set career than I do in the States. And I think with both of our names there next to each other, it just would seem like he's the leader and I'm not. But I think for me, the project feels very much like an amalgamation of both of us. I don't feel like more than, and he doesn't feel like more than or less than. It's very much... It's both of us in every way, and I appreciate that he feels the need to kind of state what my role in it was, just so that I'm treated equally.
Yeah, and it's important.
It is important,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
No question.
And I think I'm a distinct actor that is not like other actors, and that too is what is injected into this film and what I do. And also very much what I brought to it. So I'm not saying that don't get me wrong, I'm not humble. But I feel like at times that I need to push it in the opposite extreme, so that people don't make these misogynist assumptions.
How did you two meet?
Well, we met briefly a couple times in New York. I used to be the face of the New York lottery. So I was this character where I had like a shrunken body, and they made my head, my very large head, even larger. And I didn't have a beard or hair, and I wore these giant glasses.
So because of you, millions of people are addicted to
Gambling. I was
and...
tricking poor people into gambling. Yeah. But I was also poor at the time, so, maybe I get a little bit of a slide on that, but she was doing costuming on that. And I walked in the dressing room and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she told me that she had a mild heart attack before and that I should probably go to the doctor. I was not having a heart attack. I was just having an anxiety attack.
There you have it.
There you have it.
There you have
And then
it.
I
That's-
pursued her, and she was not sure about me for about 3 months. She was like, "Who is this crazy guy?"
And here we are 8 years.
And here we are, 8 years later.
And is this the first project you worked on together?
It's our first long project that we've worked on together. I have written, there's 3 short films, no, 2 short films, no, 3. He's in 3 short films that I directed and wrote, my first and my second, and then the 4th one I think I did. Brett has a part in them, and then we have also written this television show together that we are trying to get made in the States, that is kind of would be the same idea of, we are writing it together and I would direct it and Brett would star in it. And so, but Lemon was our first long kind of process together because it was 5 years of writing and rewriting and revisiting, and also, kind of growing in our romantic relationship and in our writing relationship, and those things intertwining, and it's like intense and emotional and weird to share bed and share work with
Yeah, does it
someone.
ever stop, the working part and thinking about it together?
Yeah, I think, when we first started doing it, we were really good about separating the work from our home life, and we would, it's like as soon as the writing day was done, we would kind of seamlessly move past it, and it would not bleed at all into our one-on-one life. And the more time we've spent together, it's kind of hard not to, because I find that I'm kind of always revisiting what could have been better or what we should do, or this an area of the script that could be finessed. And so it's always with me, and then naturally by my way of obsession, then it's also it's just like so it's in our lives always.
Yeah, I can imagine. You just said because there's so much more grandeur for for a feature film, and I can imagine it's also difficult. What was the difficult part to get together? Was it the writing process of finding funding everywhere, or?
All of it. All of it was difficult. Yeah. Well, it's difficult in different ways. When we're talking creative writing, directing, acting, it's difficult to make sure that it's up to your standards, up to our standards of what we want the work to be. And then in terms of funding, in terms of the logistics of making it, all of that, that's incredibly difficult because we are not two people who are making something for others to like necessarily. We make things that we like, and we hope that people like it. It is for other people, but we're pretty uncompromising in that way. So not everybody is going to respond to our work.
Yeah, I do think it's a good thing. I mean, I have never really been able to make from another place. It's very much, the work is so emotional to me. It's very, it's coming from, there's so many feelings and like, and pain and terror and anxiety, and all of that is in the movie. And so to us, I think the movie is fun. I think it's like nutty and wild and absurd, but it's like the most hyperbolic version of a lot of the things we were feeling and going through professionally and in our romantic life and in our life with our families. And so I feel that it is a very true representation of where we were at. I see how that might be a little tough for people. Maybe it's not like stomachable, or maybe there's something about him that's not likable. But I think people aren't always so likable. And I think being in pain and being lonely is not likable. And when you're in that place in your life, or at least for me and for Brett, when we were in that kind of depressed place in our life, I think there was something incredibly like toxic about us that was like coming off of us, even though we didn't mean it. Like at the core, we were charming, but there was just like this cloud because there was just so much upsetness that was kind of hard to shake, you know?
Yeah, I find it so incredibly disconcerting uh, that with a lot of my performances, including this one, that people are constantly being like, "Oh, you're just such a jerk," or "You're such a creep," and it's always a surprise to me because though I'm aware that my characters are doing not behaving in the best way sometimes, it's coming from such a sense, such a deep feeling of pain that it's actually very hurtful when people say that. When people call me in the States, they like, "Oh, you're real creepy." And it drives me crazy because I'm like, I bled on this character for you, for you to hopefully relate to it so you can feel better about the pain that you feel in your lives. But the problem is that a lot of people don't want to recognize that they feel pain and they want to escape from it and they want to live their life in this automatic way. And both of us as artists are very very much about breaking people out of that comfort zone. And I think a lot of people react in a very hostile way when you do that.
I think so, yeah, because you don't see a lot of characters on screen which have this kind of dislikability, because or they do something very bad, or but not just being not nice persons. We're not used to seeing that, I think. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, to me, you can empathize with him because he's in a bad place. And when you're in a bad place, you do bad things, whether you're Isaac or you're a gangster or you're exactly or you're Donald Trump
Who shall not be
or
named.
or you're a terrorist. Bad action starts with bad feeling. So and that's just people really want to live in this illusion of good and evil, which is ridiculous.
I was going to say, though, also that I think our protagonist, while his behavior can be a little terse, to me, it seems very childlike. Like, there's something innocent about the way he behaves. If he doesn't like something or he doesn't want something to be a certain way, he just wants to take it and he wants his way. Where when you're an adult, obviously there is, but like you said, he who shall not be named, for instance, is a perfect example of this childlike adult, right? That when their feelings are hurt, they lash out. When they don't get what they want, they lash out. They don't understand why they don't get what they want, and they feel very much like a victim. And in the way that I think when you're a child, things should happen and occur, things should just come to you sort of easily. And when they don't, it's confusing. And that's like the more you arrive at adulthood, the farther and farther you get away from realizing, oh, I don't get what I want. But our lead character is this kind of person who is a little bit stunted. They're not socialized. They haven't totally arrived at adulthood to the point where even their body is rejecting them. The movie opens with his body rejecting him and closes with his body rejecting him. Like every part of him is trying to grow up, I guess.
Yeah, and coming back to He Who Shall Not Be Named, how is it for you now in the States? Your family is from Panama. How does it feel to be there at the moment?
I'm first generation, and and even if I wasn't first generation, as a person of color, what is happening in the U.S. is really unsettling. But it's not just happening there; it's happening globally, and I'm trying to understand where it comes from, which I think it is a product of fear as well, and terror, and this idea of disappearing and being invisible. I mean, at the end of the day, the person that we wanted to be president did actually win. There is just a racist institutional electing process in our country that was established during slavery, and that because of that, that's why she didn't win. And that is also really frustrating, that you could be incredibly qualified the best for a job and not get it and lose to a person that doesn't deserve it. I mean, like, talk about male-female dynamics. And what I hope most is that this new regime lights a fire under the bottoms of people like us, that we actually practice the world that we talk about living in, this world that is inclusive and diverse and actually try. I really don't. I mean, it's so overwhelming. I mean, it's incredibly overwhelming. But I'm very saddened by it, and I feel very fortunate that I have my community of people and my world, as I know I'm very much in a bubble, but I'm concerned for people who do not have this kind of escape.
Yeah, I think what you were getting to is, yeah, it's also scary that what we now realize is our responsibility as the people, because I think that the people are the only answer at this point, because this is all, it feels engineered. It does feel engineered. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it does feel like the small amount of people who hold everything are trying to create a system that they're the only ones that benefit from and everyone else suffers. So it's up to us at this point, and we have to resist this tyranny that's going on.
I think that's the perfect closure.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
You so
Thanks.
much.
Have fun at the
Thank
festival.
you.
Oh, we
Thank you so
will.
much.
Thank
Great
you
meeting
very
you.
much.